Hello, listeners. Welcome back to the Flipping the Bird podcast. I'm your host, Luke Lawhorn, the current sports editor at UTSA's student newspaper, the Paisano. I'm excited to be back with my guys here. We were just talking on Monday. A few of them are back here. We'll start with Brandon. How are you doing, bro?
I'm doing all right, man. Happy to be here.
Aramis, what's up?
How you guys doing? Ready for Friday? Ready for UTSA win against Army?
Yes, sir. Rylan, how are you doing, dog?
I'm chilling. I'm at the acceptance stage of the grief. I've recovered from Sunday, so hopefully more measured this today.
I'm still embarrassed. So
Oh yeah,
I'm just gonna leave it at that.
for sure.
Exactly. Well, let's just get straight into it, man. UTSA, our football team, bounced back. They're 1-1 now to start the year, for the second straight year, and now again for the third straight year. They're going to play Army in Week 3, and they've split these last couple of years, 1-1. Rylan, I'll start with you. You're our big UTSA football guy. The game's in 48 hours from now, or roughly. How do you envision Friday night's game going?
Truthfully, man, it just depends on how healthy Frank Harris is. Obviously, he went down twice in that game against Texas State, and Frank has always just kind of struggled with injuries, and just depending on what his confidence level is, as far as stepping into throws, staying in the pocket, and delivering. I think that's going to be a real big factor into beating a admittedly decent Army team. I said some things about them last week. On Monday that maybe have been a little bit, over.
A little far-fetched.
Yeah, a little far-fetched. But, yeah, it really just depends on how Frank Harris is feeling going into Friday.
What would you we'll come back for more thoughts, but you think UTSA does pull it out, right?
Oh, yeah, UTSA wins for sure, but it'll be a lot closer than I was saying on Monday for sure.
Okay. Yeah, I definitely do think that the game will be interesting. I'll leave it at that for now. It does depend on Frank Harris, whether he plays or not. We'll get into more of that in the next topic, but I've always, ever since the schedule's been released, I've had Army beating UTSA. I'm going to stick with that even if Frank Harris plays. I think it's going to be low scoring because if you've watched these first two games, UTSA, yeah, they've been struggling offensively, but they've been pretty good on defense. They've held teams. Houston, they scored 17, and what did Texas State score? 13?
13.
Yeah, so they've been doing the job defensively. However, that I don't care. That 57-0 win from Army against Delaware State, it's proof to me they can run. They can run. They have the cardio. I have Army winning 24-17. Aramis, what about you?
I haven't made up a score. I'm gonna say UTSA 20-16.
Okay.
Obviously, the biggest thing is UTSA is gonna have to stop the rush. It's Army. Going into this game, I didn't realize Army is a primarily rushing team.
Mm-hmm.
I saw a tweet the other day. It was Bryson Daly's 59-yard bomb to Isaiah Austin. I think it was a quote. It said what happened to the game. I know. I didn't get the tweet until I looked it up. Do you guys want to guess how many passing touchdowns Army had last year?
Whole last season?
Yeah.
2022?
Yeah.
Passing touchdowns?
Yeah.
I'm just taking a guess.
25.
I will guess 7.
I was
Two less than that.
I was gonna go 13.
5 passing touchdowns for the entire year.
That's insane.
And Daly had 3 in one game. That is a once-in-a-lifetime game. That is a once-in-a-lifetime game for Army. It's not going to happen again. It's not going to happen this Friday. And with UTSA's defense looking as good as it did, I think they're going to shut down Army. I have them winning, like I said before, 20-16.
Okay.
20-16. I agree that UTSA is definitely going to have to show out against Army. We played them last year and it was a close game, and then 2 years ago they did beat us. We went into overtime. We struggled with them last year, and also like Rylan, like you said, we're going to stay in the pocket. He's got a hurt foot. We're gonna have to keep that in check behind the O line. O line's really gonna have to show out to protect him,
And that's going to be hard. Mekhi Hart's not playing.
Right?
I don't know. Our starting tackle is not playing. And I don't know if you saw the series when Eddie came in.
Right.
He was sacked on 3 straight plays.
Yeah, and
they just got destroyed.
O line really needs to step up for UTSA to show out against Army. It's going to be a close game. I got Army actually winning though, and I had my take last podcast saying we're going to go 8-4. This was going to be our first loss. I was going to say Tennessee was going to be our other loss, UAB and Tulane end of season. UAB is going to be kind of a stretch, but I do have us losing to Army. I think it's going to be a low-scoring game. I think it's going to be another 20-13 type of game. But again, we have to shut down that run because, like you said, Bryson Daly, he's not passing like that.
Yeah. He
Well,
had like 2 rushing touchdowns last game as well, right?
Right. So they're just pounding up the field, handing the ball off, and I mean they're Army. It's what they're known for. So I'm not going to be surprised if we can't stop it. Touchdown, touchdown. They're just going to keep running it on us.
I'd like to add one more thing. Army last year was 1-3 on the road. They're on the road against us this week, so that's another thing to look into. They weren't good on the road last year.
I'll get into both of those. I'll get back to the being at home thing in a minute. Brandon, I want to go back to you real quick. I don't want to put you on the spot, but you said you have us going 8-4.
Yeah, I do.
You have us losing to Army.
I do.
Losing to Tennessee.
I do.
Losing to UAB, and then to Tulane.
And Tulane, yep.
Well, we're already 1-1. We've already lost to Houston. Does that? Are you sticking to 8-4, and we're making up for one of those wins, or are we going 7-5?
Well, because the UAB one, I'm still iffy on. I go back and forth between that. So if that one is going to be pulled out, then yeah, it would be 8-4 with the Houston loss. So I guess technically, yeah, I got us going 7-5. I got us still losing a UAB. I know I'm not trying to sound like a hater to UTSA, but I mean, he's in his last year. He's now hurt. He really needs to be protected. I just don't see us pulling off a stellar year like how we've been doing last couple of years. So
So it's 7-5.
7-5. Thank you for correcting me.
Okay.
UAB would be the only toss-up in my opinion.
Mm-hmm.
So between 8-4 and 7-5, but I still got us losing for it.
How did UAB look last week?
Last week?
Yeah.
I'm not sure. We'll have to get one of these people to look at it. I'm going to go back to what you said about playing at home. The Black Knights, they lead the all-time series 2-1 against UTSA. Did you know they actually won both of the games in San Antonio, too? The only game we won was last year when we went to West Point. And UTSA is actually pretty good at protecting the Dome. The Roadrunners have won 7 straight at the Alamo Dome and 17 of their last 18 games at home. But again, with all that said, still have Army winning. I think they're going to make it 3-0 at the Alamo Dome. But that is a good stat, and I do think that speaks a lot to Jeff Traylor being a good coach. Good coaches always protect home field, whether it's Mike Tomlin or Bill Belichick. They always protect home field regardless of how beat up their team is, how injury riddled they are. Did you pull up the UAB
if
last
this
week's
is
game?
correct, they're 1-1, lost last week 35-49.
To who?
It's a GA Southern.
Okay.
Yeah, and they're 2-0. I know it's still far fetched, and that's why it is a toss up for me. But with last year's results, man, it was a close one, 44-38 in overtime.
UAB always plays UTSA close. I mean, before UTSA took over Conference USA, they dominated the conference until we got Jeff Traylor. We obviously won the last 2 before we went to the American, but yeah, it's tough. I want to go back to talk about Frank Harris because I think we'd all agree here, all UTSA fans, our wins and losses really dictate on him. Last year we were good because Frank Harris, if he had the ball late in the fourth quarter, he was going to go down the field, make a pass to Zachary Franklin, who's no longer here, or JT Clark, who is pretty injury riddled at this point, with Will Stein, who's now at Oregon. So now, if Frank Harris does not play, Rylan, I know you're confident about UTSA winning. Does UTSA have a chance against Army without Frank Harris?
I couldn't tell you what's worse, like Frank Harris with one leg or Eddie Lee Marburg at this point, man. I mean, because I just can't overstate how bad he looked when he came in against Texas State. Like, there was no semblance of an offense at all. But, I mean, we have a good running game. We have 3 good running backs, Our offensive line, our tackles are kind of iffy, but the interior I like. And with the good defense that we have, I think we can still pull it out even if Frank wasn't there. As long as we can facilitate the offense through Kavorian Barnes, play good defense, and play smart football, not turn over the football, I think we can still pull it out against Army at least.
So either way, with Frank Harris without, you're going to be shocked if you leave the Alamo Dome on Friday night with an L.
Rylan, you are bold.
That's correct.
You are very bold for that.
Yeah.
Which, I mean, good coaches can make that happen, especially with Kavorian Barnes who's been popping off. We have great running backs. It'll come down to our defense. Hopefully, Trey Moore, they can have another great defensive game like they did last week. Aramis, what about you? Do you think UTSA has a shot without Frank Harris?
I'm going to keep this short and sweet now.
No?
I don't.
Okay.
Yeah.
Brandon?
Not at all.
Not at all.
Close.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, I mean, I don't think they're going to win regardless, just because I think Army plays us well, and that the way they rush the ball is very effective. It's going to come down to our defense. So we'll see what happens. Speaking of another quarterback who got injured, Aaron Rodgers on Monday Night Football, season debut, Monday Night Football at home, carries out the flag. And
on 9/11.
Okay. Carries out the flag. 4 plays later, goes down. And his season's over already. They're back to Zach Wilson. And the team last year went 7-9 and felt pretty optimistic with just average quarterback play. They'd be a playoff team. Obviously, now the future Hall of Famer is injured, done for the year. Rylan, what are your thoughts just overall on Aaron Rodgers and his future, the Jets? What do you take away from it?
Well, I'll start with the Jets' future, and they have none this year. Their season is over. We've seen enough of Zach Wilson. I'm sorry. Zach Wilson is not a good quarterback. He can't make reads. He's good with escaping around the pocket. He has no type of anything. That Jets offense was built throughout the whole offseason for Aaron Rodgers. The team is learning their cadence. They brought in Alan Lazard from Green Bay. They brought in Nathaniel Hackett, who worked with Aaron Rodgers in Green Bay. They brought in Randall Cobb. I mean, everything was centered around Aaron Rodgers running the offense. And now with Zach Wilson, who was garbage, last year. Even with the defense looked great. The special teams looked great. Obviously, they had the punt return touchdown. I just don't see things working out with Nathaniel Hackett and Zach Wilson. He's just that bad, unfortunately.
I agree with you. I don't think Zach Wilson is all that. I mean, he had a touchdown. He did have an interception.
That was not Zach Wilson at all. That was all Garrett Wilson. Yeah.
Garrett Wilson with his phenomenal catch, and then you've got the interception, only 140 passing yards. So yeah, he didn't show out. He's not that guy to step up for the Jets. But keep in mind that even last year, the Jets were all defense. They didn't make it far, but they were all defense. Especially this year, I'm going to say that defense showed out. Last game against the Bills, they showed out, and of course, special teams, as we all know, we saw the punt return. So I think that they are going to go far. Maybe not. I wouldn't say playoffs. I wouldn't say playoff week
one.
One.
They didn't have Brees Hall last year.
They didn't.
He did get injured. And he came out Monday looking really great.
Yeah,
which was amazing.
It looks like they're going to be transitioning to a run heavy type of offense, and the defense is really going to have to put it on them. Every team they play, it should be a low scoring game for the Jets if they want a very, very valid good season.
And we've seen that work before. Obviously, I'm not comparing Russell Wilson to Zach Wilson, but in 2013 when they had the Legion of Boom, Peyton Manning in his final year with Denver, the Ravens in 2000. But the thing with those quarterbacks is the Jets, they have good running backs and they have a good defense, which is good enough to get you in the playoffs. But you have to have a quarterback that knows how to take care of the football. Right. If you're giving the other team more opportunities against an already bad offense, you're not going to win games, and you're not going to win games in the playoffs. And that's the reason why I'm saying the Jets aren't going to go anywhere this year, is because their quarterback does not know how to take care of the football.
Well, here. Well, first off, this is a question I still ask myself 2 years later. I don't know how Zach Wilson was drafted second overall in the 2021 draft. I don't care, man. Like, I was pounding the table, not just for Justin. Yeah, like what? To this day, nobody knows. So obviously Jacksonville had the number 1 pick. They were going with Trevor Lawrence. Obviously, nobody knows because no one has said why the Jets were always just marking in Zach Wilson for the second pick, and why the 49ers traded up for Trey Lance. I have no idea because they've moved off Trey Lance already. And Zach Wilson's now an eye roll that he's starting. But just 2 years ago, he was a second-round pick. So I really have no idea. What were you going to say, Ryan?
Well, I'll tell you why. And we've seen it. And you can thank for Zach Wilson and Trey Lance getting drafted so high. You can thank Josh Allen because every team is looking for that guy who's got the athletic traits. He's got the arm. He can move around, do whatever.
Justin Fields?
But yeah, I know Justin Fields, but the teams now are not looking for the guy that can put up stats in college. They're looking for the guy with the traits. That's why you see Trey Lance, FCS, get drafted top 3. They're willing to bet on the athletic traits, the arm, and all that, and developing him to become a better passer. That way, you can get a player like Josh Allen, like Patrick Mahomes, who was raw coming out of Texas Tech, but. I mean, even now, Josh Allen, is not looking too great, but he's obviously still top 10. But that's what you saw this year with Anthony Richardson. 2 months before the draft, everybody had Anthony Richardson early second, late first, and then the week into the draft, obviously he went top 5. So That's what these teams are looking for, and that's why they drafted him that.
But I literally feel like that's what Justin Fields is.
Oh,
I mean,
I believe it too.
I mean, when he was recruited, same class as Trevor Lawrence, number 2 overall in the entire country, obviously a 5-star, .9998 to Trevor Lawrence's 99 overall, and had major success. Lost 2 games in all of college. Is an athlete, he's super athletic. Last year was the highlight of the entire Bears team. All his runs and scrambles he had to do because that O-line was terrible. So, I mean, I don't know. Anyway, that wasn't even the main point. What do you want to say?
I'd like to add one more thing. That second and third overall pick, which was Trey Lance, it looks worse and worse every single day because that 2021 class, it was stacked.
Yeah, it was
stacked.
Yeah, it was. That's going to be one of the greatest drafts of all time. But
Oh wow!
I mean,
why was Zach Wilson so
going back to the Jets? You're right. If you have a quarterback who doesn't turn the ball over, can basically just game manage Tom Brady early on in his career. A quarterback on all these great defense like the 2013 Seahawks, the 2002 Bucks, 2000 Ravens, yeah, I can do that. Are we sure the Jets defense is that good? Because last year they went 7-9. Do you know those 7 wins? Do you know the quarterbacks they came against? I'll tell you. Well, their first was against Deshaun Watson last year, who is not that good.
Mm-hmm.
Their second was against Kenny Pickett and the Pittsburgh Steelers. Not that good. Their third was against the Miami Dolphins without Tua when he was hurt.
Which was
the fourth.
Who was the backup then at the time?
I don't even remember because that backup got hurt.
I think it was Teddy Bridgewater and then it was Skylar Thompson.
Okay, yeah, you might be right. Then at Green Bay, Aaron Rodgers had a down year last year. Then back to Denver. And then against Buffalo when Josh Allen played one of the worst games of his life. And then against the Bears, and then a 7-game losing streak to end the season. So I'm trying to please help me out, Aramis. Why are we so sure? Why are we already proclaiming this Jets defense to be top notch just because of Sauce Gardner?
He didn't even have that good of a game.
And I know they got good pieces, but
yeah. For me, it's really the pieces. I think they're the second best defense behind the Niners. I trust Quinnen Williams. I trust Sauce. Yes, they ended last season on a 7-game losing streak, but I think most of that just had to do with the offense. It was that bad. And I think the offense this year is going to be better, especially because they have Brees. I think that as long as Zach Wilson, which I know he's very prone to turnovers, as long as he just limits the turnovers, I think this defense is good enough to win them some games.
So defense alone. Okay. Rylan, what do you have to say about that?
I mean, well, I don't. First of all, I don't like the Jets at all, of course, but they do have pieces on defense. Quinnen Williams, Jermaine Johnson. They drafted Will McDonald in the first round. Sauce Gardner, who I think is overrated, but he's still a top 10 cornerback. You got DJ Reed. You got Jordan Whitehead, who had 3 picks on Monday night. They have the pieces to do it. And as far as the 7-game losing streak, I think that was just fatigue, knowing that your offense can't get it done. So you start to kind of the morale starts to get with Denver. Denver had one of the best defenses last year, but when the offense was just starting to, you just knew that the offense wasn't going to produce. They started to do worse and worse. I think they finished out one of the final games against the Baker Mayfield-led Rams, and they gave up 50 points. I mean, that would have never happened weeks 1 through 10, even against Denver. So I think their defense is all that. As much as I don't like the Jets, but I just think it won't be enough to overcome Zach Wilson in the end.
Okay, well, let me ask you guys this. Does everyone here think the Jets will make the playoffs?
No.
I don't.
Not Brandon.
After losing Aaron, no.
Yeah.
You?
No.
I had them as Super Bowl contenders with Aaron Rodgers.
Do you still have them in the playoffs
Super
now?
Bowl contenders.
You had them going all the way.
Contenders, yeah, I understand.
Right?
Do you still have them making the playoffs without them?
I put here fringe playoff team now. The AFC is so tough. Without Aaron Rodgers, they're going to be that one team that gets left out.
Okay, so just quick again. I feel like I'm always putting you on the spot. So do we all assume that Jacksonville wins the AFC South?
Yes.
Do we all assume the Chiefs win the West?
Yeah,
Sure. Yeah.
Okay. I feel like the North is going to come down to Baltimore and Cincy.
Okay.
But do you think both of them make the playoffs regardless?
Yeah.
Okay, back to the West. Do you think the Chiefs and Chargers make it regardless?
Oh man, that Chargers team is so unpredictable.
I was gonna say they're very unpredictable. They can show out or they can just completely fall.
Well, guess what? I've already named 5 teams.
Yeah.
And there's 2 left, and we haven't gotten to the AFC East yet. I think the Buffalo Bills take a step back, but they're obviously good enough to still make the playoffs.
Right.
Obviously, we're high on Miami.
Oh,
So now, and a lot of people are predicting the Browns or the Steelers to be that third team in the North. So now we're already at 8 teams. Only 7 make the playoffs. We haven't even gotten to the Jets yet. So I'm just trying to find.
It's a tough conference.
Unless Zach Wilson can live up to being the second overall pick,
He's not.
he won't. Then there's no way. I don't see it. That conference is too stacked with too many good quarterbacks. Even I still believe in Russell Wilson in Denver, and I still believe in Deshaun Watson in Cleveland, as whatever. But you just can't do it without an elite quarterback in the AFC. You can't.
I'm not sold on Deshaun Watson. I'm with you on Russell Wilson. He's been looking great with the Broncos.
He looked game one for sure.
But I'm not at all sold on Deshaun.
Oh, Deshaun was. I mean, he was pretty bad last year. He was missing throws all over
Yeah,
Cincinnati, which made me more mad we were losing because I was like, dude, he's not even playing well, which was worse. But I don't know if y'all saw Joe Burrow did get a haircut, so maybe that does make him play better on Sunday. Yeah, I will be at that game, so I'm very excited for that game. Moving on, before we would get out of here, I want to go look at the AP poll. Obviously, it was released last Sunday, as it does throughout this year. I just want to get all y'all's takeaways. I have a bunch, of course. Main one that sticks out to me, obviously, first thing I'm looking for is where Ohio State is. I have absolutely no problem with them falling. They've started this year at 3, they went to 5, and now they're at 6. Honestly, love it because that team has showed me no reason to believe they're even a top 10 team. No reason. Out of respect for them in the program, they're at 6, which I do like. I really don't have a problem with Texas jumping that high. You go into Tuscaloosa, you get a game like that. Sure, jump to the top 4 because we also know as college football fans, the rankings really don't matter, especially not when they're not even the college football playoff rankings, just the AP poll. Bama falls to 10. I could have predicted that. They weren't going to fall outside the top 10. That's, of course, my immediate reactions. As an Ohio State fan, I just tend to look at the top 10, kind of falls off after that. I do see Colorado's moving up to 18. It would be insane if they finish in the top 10, but who knows? If they keep winning, it's going to happen. Aramis, I'm going to go to you. Don't know if you have it pulled up already. You got it. Okay. What are your takeaways looking at the AP poll?
I mean, there isn't really much that I disagree with here.
Okay.
Michigan is at 2. Florida State with their win over LSU. I think they
good win.
Yeah, I think they deserve to be at number 3. They also have the 66-13 win. USC as well. I mean, I'm looking at this list, and there's not really much that I disagree with.
Yeah, I will say this. I'm totally for teams dropping if they're not playing a standard. Love it for Ohio State. I obviously understand Georgia staying at 1, defending national champions back to back. They're okay. Florida State and Texas at 3 and 4 have the best wins in the country so far. Michigan at 2. I'm with it for now, but they really aren't looking any more impressive than Ohio State has. I mean, they won their first game against East Carolina at home. Both games are at home, by the way. First game beat East Carolina 30-3. Meh. They beat UNLV at home 35-7. Meh. I mean, Ohio State's winning by the same margins, and I think Michigan's actually played 2 worse teams than Ohio State has, personally. So I think if Michigan, they're playing Bowling Green this week again at home. All 4 of
easy schedule.
All 4 of them,
schedule.
they're all at home.
Right.
So if Michigan has another meh performance, they need to move down and have FSU and Florida State move up. What about FSU and Texas move up?
I had a quick question. Do you think that they're taking into account the fact that they're winning these games without Jim Harbaugh?
No.
I hope not.
I don't. I don't think the AP poll. I mean, I think the college football playoff poll would. The committee. Yeah. I don't think the AP poll is. How about you, Ryan? What are your takeaways from this poll?
No, yeah. I mean, I don't see any problems with it. Florida State at 3. I like them there. I like Texas. I mean, if you beat Alabama, in Alabama, you obviously deserve to be where they're at. So I'm looking at just outside the top 4, though. USC, I like with Caleb Williams. They're always going to have a chance. Ohio State, I'm sure they'll start to go up once Kyle McCord, right, gets started now. Comfortable. So Penn State is one of those teams I could also see going up. Washington, I don't know about Notre Dame. And obviously Alabama, you dropped 7 spots because you deserved it. But also I like Colorado. I like Colorado to keep moving up, and I actually think they'll beat USC when they play.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
I
think that USC's defense is that bad, and that Colorado's offense is that good. I wouldn't be shocked if they pulled it out against them like that.
I agree with you. I think Colorado can pull it off. I mean, especially with Dion coaching them the way he has. I think they're. Who's home at that game?
USC.
Yeah, it's USC.
Okay,
USC.
so on the road it will be a lot tougher, but I still got Colorado pulling it off, man. And I'm glad we all can agree UT's rightfully so a spot 4.
Mhm.
I'm still upset. I've been saying this. Georgia and Michigan. I know that this got snowball schedules. It's too easy, and they're 1 and 2. Florida State's great. USC's great. Ohio State. I'm happy with it, where they're at. Also, the only one I'm pretty iffy on is why LSU is ranked 14 after only beating Grambling and losing
Mhm.
to USC.
Or FSU.
FSU. Yeah. I think LSU should be a little lower. Especially, I like Colorado moving up. Love to see Oklahoma keep moving down. I do have a quick take that I'm going to say for the Rose Bowl. I'm predicting Ohio State versus Texas. And as much as I'd hate to say it, it'll be a toss-up for me. I mean, I know OSU's got the better lineup, but they haven't proved anything so far. So I want to say that's going to be a toss-up, but I also got them going. Whoever wins that game is going to go to the championship versus Georgia. That's my early take in it now. So mark it down, whatever you
So
will.
basically, you think Texas and Ohio State win out and go and be in
Yeah,
the playoff?
I do. I have them going all the way to the Rose Bowl, that being a toss-up game for who plays Georgia in the championship.
Before we move on, Colorado's actually at home for the USC game. Zach, check
Okay,
it.
then
Okay,
I'm
good.
gonna double down on
I don't
that.
know, man. Okay, so looking at Colorado, they won in a shootout against TCU, who lost everybody, 45-42. I get the Colorado's offense is good. Last week against Nebraska, they struggled, especially in the first half. I know that it looks like 36-14. Oh my gosh. No, dude. The beginning of the game it was 13-0 at halftime. Again, the Buffaloes, but they looked sloppy, and I don't think Nebraska's that good anyway. They play Colorado State this week. They're in-state rival. I think they'll take care of business, but they play at Oregon, number 13, and host USC back-to-back. Because the Pac-12 is terrible. They schedule their games terribly. That's why we need a commissioner in college football. I've always been saying that. Because they schedule games like this is terrible. Like every other league, I mean, you look at the SEC, they play one hard team, and it's like 3 FCS schools to kind of, pancake them in. Ohio State, they play Penn State, and then Rutgers, Maryland, and then Michigan State, and then, someone else, and then Michigan. Every other conference knows what to do. You look at the Big 12 and Pac-12, and maybe it's just because they have a lot of teams that are like the same level. They play like a ranked team, but they're all like mid. It's not like a top contender. No, so it's a terrible scheduling break. That was my point I'm getting at. They're losing one of those 2 games. They are not beating both Oregon and USC. I hope I'm not the only person in this room who thinks that. Absolutely no way they're going to beat 1, 2, 3, 4. They're going to be 6-0, having beat TCU, having beat Nebraska, having beat Oregon and USC. If they do that, okay, then they're a top 4 playoff team.
For sure.
But I think Caleb Williams lights them up because their secondary is great. I mean, it's not great, but it's their strength of their defense. They have a hard time stopping the run. Obviously, everyone knew that was going to be their hardest part was their front 7. I don't. Please tell me, Rylan, do you have them going 6-0 and beating both Oregon and USC?
Nah, I don't.
Don't let me talk you out of it if you believe it.
No. I still think they'll if not beat USC, they'll give it it'll be real close. But I wouldn't be shocked to see them lose to Oregon because
they're at Oregon.
Just one. Those are just too hard. You can't back to back. It's going to be tough.
And another thing, sorry to cut you off, but their first game was on the road in TCU, but I feel like there was so much focus on Dion and the team that it didn't even feel like they were away. It felt like all the coverage was for them. But they were home against Nebraska. They will be home against Colorado State. Now they're at Oregon, so they are traveling to the Pacific Northwest, I may add. So they're going to Oregon in September. Who knows if it might be raining or whatever. So that's a little tricky game, Aramis. I don't know. How are you feeling?
I think they beat Oregon. I do think they beat Oregon, but the way that Caleb Williams has looked, no way I don't think they beat USC.
I don't think so either.
So y'all both got them losing back to back between Oregon and USC, right?
I think they beat Oregon. I don't think they beat USC.
I think they beat Oregon?
I have them losing.
Oh, I'm the opposite, man. I would say that they're going to get blown out by Oregon. But
blown out by Oregon.
I want to say blown out by Oregon. I wouldn't be surprised if they get blown out by USC. I mean, especially, I think that team is also mad. I'm not a big USC fan, but I do think Caleb Williams. I mean, he's obviously, if you've just watched him, you know how he plays. I think Lincoln Riley is obviously a offensive genius, so he's going to know how to attack that Colorado defense, which is young. I think you're supposed to lose by a lot. there are just them being 2-0 is already better. Yeah, so I'm not trying to rain on their parade. And then by the way, Colorado closes out its schedule. They host Stanford, but go to ranked UCLA. They host ranked Oregon State. They host Arizona. They go to ranked Washington State, and they go to ranked Utah. So, and they play 4 ranked teams in the last 5 games after playing Oregon and USC in the middle of their schedule. Brandon, what do you think?
That's tough. It's a very, very, very rough schedule they've got, and I feel very sorry for them. But the only team I can see them really pulling it off is going to be USC. I don't know why. I've got this hunch that just Caleb Williams is not he's not playing his full in that game, and I've got Colorado really stomping them on that. My bad, not stomping them, but pulling off the win, especially with it being home. Every other game though, they're going to get hurting.
I think that Colorado USC game might be like the best game of the season. Like just not like on the schedule. I mean, you don't look at it and be like, but I think it will end up being the best game because I think that the USC defense is so bad. And I also think what makes Caleb Williams great, well, he has all day in the pocket to just kind of ad-lib and do whatever and make all kinds of crazy throws. And Colorado doesn't have a good defensive line, so I think we're going to see more of that. But I also think that Shedeur Sanders is good enough to match Caleb Williams in a shootout and win, especially at home.
I wouldn't say it's good. I already think Texas and Bama will be a top 5 game, which is rare when you have a game this early in the season. You can have that high. I generally do think it'll be Ohio State, Michigan. That's the best game of the season. Not just because I believe they will both be undefeated. I don't think Colorado's gonna. If they lose more than one game, they're not going to the playoff. So all the games that to me are the best in college football are the games that the winner, like it's the leverage to go into the playoff. Which, by the way, I don't know if you saw. I know Brandon saw it because I sent it to him that there was 8.8 million viewers for the Texas and Bama game. And did you know for the Ohio State Michigan game it was 17.3 million? So about double. Yeah, it's I couldn't end the podcast without saying something about Ohio State.
But that's such a long rivalry that it's always had those views. It's always had that hype behind it. So are you really is anyone really shocked on that it's that big a jump compared to it? I mean, everyone knows that UT and Bama had a lot of views.
Yeah.
But the rivalry that's been going on between Michigan and Ohio State has been a lot longer than any other team.
No, I'm not shocked. That's my point. I'm not shocked.
Okay.
I'm not shocked at all. Of course, thank you guys for listening to this episode. Wanted to get a little quick one here with just us 4. Amos, you have something to say before we get out of here?
Can I add a segment really quick?
Let's get it.
Do you guys have any hot takes not hot takes, like overreactions for week 1?
For NFL?
Because I have one that...
An overreaction?
You guys are probably going to go crazy over.
Hey,
let's hear yours.
So, yeah. I have Brock Purdy going all-pro.
All-pro?
All-pro. I think he could go all-pro.
Yeah, no, that's pretty out there. Watching Trevor Lawrence play, because one, he has a way easier schedule than Brock Purdy does. And with the added weapon of Calvin Ridley, who looked great in week 1, I think Trevor Lawrence him and Mahomes might snatch that 1 and 2 spot. Yeah. So I don't know about that one.
He's had 2 touchdowns in basically every game that he's played. He's penciled in to get 30 touchdowns. He's not going to throw more than 10 interceptions. I think he could.
But it's not, to me, that's not at all a Brock Purdy stat. That's a Kyle Shanahan stat.
He's got one of the best QB friendly systems. You got Christian McCaffrey, Deebo Samuel, Brandon Ayuk.
It's made for you. It's training wheels. I mean, you look at Kyle Shanahan made Matt Ryan an MVP. Mm-hmm. He got Trey Lance. Not only did he draft him, but he got him all the way to Dallas. Who was the last quarterback? I'm blanking. Jimmy Garoppolo. He got him got him 2 different contract extensions. So all he does is make super mid quarterbacks money. I mean, he's a great guy. He really helps out all these guys who trying to make millions of dollars in the NFL. Rylan, do you have any hot takes before we get out of here?
Yeah, I'm going to say Denver in the playoffs over Buffalo.
So who wins the East?
Who wins the East?
Yeah.
Oh, Miami.
Okay.
Yeah,
okay,
Miami
sorry.
For sure. No, you're good. Let's see what else. I'd say Tariq Woolen, All-Pro. Sauce Gardner is going to be the second corner or second team All-Pro. I think Tariq Woolen's that much better than him. I just do.
Okay.
And what can I say? I think that's it.
Okay.
I mean, the main one's Denver over Buffalo.
I don't have any hot takes, but I want to bounce off what you said. I got a lot of respect for both Tyreek and Sauce.
Right.
I genuinely think Sauce is much better, though. I think it's a very big gap between. I think they're both great, but there's a big gap, man, and you got to take into consideration Seattle fan and UTSA fan. I can see where the bias is coming from.
I promise you, there's no bias.
I heard you earlier not giving a lot of respect to Sauce, man. Last season, he played amazing. He was shutting down every wide receiver he was on, and he's been showing out this season so far too.
Has he though? I mean, he got cooked by Stephon Diggs and Gabe Davis. Like,
he's still a
well,
rookie,
stay on track
man.
here.
He's still a rookie, and Stephon Diggs, he's just that. He's that guy. I give him a lot of respect too because he's fast, very good route runner. Mm-hmm. He's hard to cover. There's not a lot of cornerbacks that can, especially a rookie.
Oh, well, give Tariq Woolen, Quinton Williams, Jermaine Johnson, and Will McDonald on the defensive line, and I promise you, he would be like the best corner in the league.
I think they're both pretty good. If we're talking about any overrated cornerback, I'd say Trevon Diggs. But before we get out of here, I'll say my hot take.
Why was Trevon Diggs a hot take?
Dude, he gets beat all the time.
Okay. So are you talking last season or so far now?
So far now. Sauce and Tariq literally been in the league for just as long, or is it the opposite? Is it one? It's like Trevon, 3, 2, and 1.
Trevon got drafted in 2020. Tariq.
So it's 3, 2. Yeah. They're literally all. I mean, they're all on the rookie deals. I mean, and he's on the Cowboys defense when Sauce is on the Jets defense, and we see Tariq in Seattle going again. I mean, you have to also think of their division. What receivers are they going to twice?
Okay, I can see that. Then I can see. I didn't take consideration.
But
I still give him his props, especially showing out last year. I think he's just running a little slow so far.
I think he's top 8.
I think he's running a little slow so far.
Who?
Trevon Diggs.
I think he's top 8.
Yeah, I don't think that's crazy. I mean, I just don't think he's top 2 or 3 like everyone else plays him to be. I mean, it's clearly. I would say Sauce is Pat Surtain 1 and 2.
I'd say it's
and really it's Pat Surtain 1, and then I think it's he's got it locked up, and he's another guy who's only 3 years
fully healthy. Pat Surtain is number 1 unquestionable. Jalen Ramsey, I think you got to go.
No,
yes.
And when he was on the Rams,
Jalen Ramsey,
but on the Rams he still wasn't that guy.
What? He was only mid last year, and I don't blame him.
They cooked him. Bengals cooked him in the Super Bowl.
Yeah, but
Bengals cooked him in the Super Bowl.
No, I just think a healthy Jalen Ramsey.
You just go off reputation.
I know. Yeah. He has I'm not a big reputation guy either. But I think I've seen him year after year, or 3 years. We have good wide receivers in Seattle. I've seen him put up good games against us. I think he is a top.
Are you talking about DK? You talking when he locked up DK?
No, DK owns Jalen Ramsey. Let's get that straight. But I'm just saying. But he's giving us.
I disagree with that, man.
Hey, we gotta stay on top of this. We were trying to get out here 2 minutes ago. Thank you guys for listening. We'll be back next week giving our recap to the Texas or UTSA Army game. Recap all of the games over the weekend. Again, thanks for watching. Be tuned. Thank you.
Thanks for watching. Click our logo to subscribe or click the videos for more from the Paisano. Leave a comment letting us know your thoughts and what you'd like to see us cover next.